all all distinguished participants from all over country. Today we have with us two eminent speakers. First, I will let you know about. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Today we have with us two eminent speakers. There will be two lectures by these two speakers. And the first speaker we have today with us, a legendary person who has worked a lot in sheep and goat, Dr. Gopal Gone, sir. I would like to welcome from the organizer side. Sir, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
to
you,
this
sir.
program.
Thank you.
And sir will be dealing today on the topic breeding strategies and selection of best quality goats under changing climate. And the second lecture will be delivered by Dr. K. Lakshmi Kavita. She is Associate Professor, Department of Microbiology, College of Veterinary Science, Tirupati. And Madam will be delivering a lecture on very important topic, that is climate change, health issues in goats and their control strategies. So first of all, I would like to request Dr. Kuldeep Deshpande sir to kindly introduce first speaker, that is Dr. Gopal Gone sir. Kuldeep Deshpande sir, please.
You're not audible, Kuldeep. Not audible.
Very good evening to the participants for this program, and I welcome you on this third day of this training program. So we are at almost mid of this training program of 5 days, and we have listened the lectures on different topics like feeding management, the feed production resources development. And yesterday there was a very nice lecture by Dr. Rajshekharan sir, and it was regarding the marketing of the goats, and it was very practical lecture. However, all of us know that buck is half of the herd, so breeding is a very important topic. And we have Dr. G.R. Govne, Senior Scientist, ICR, National Dairy Research Institute, Karnal, with us, who will be delivering his lecture on breeding aspect of goats and how we can improve the production by improving the breeding strategies or applying the breeding strategies in herd. And to introduce him, it is my privilege to introduce him because we are friends since our UG days, and Dr. Gone has completed his graduation from Nagpur Veterinary College, post-graduation from NDRI Karnal, and then his PhD from IVRI Izzatnagar, and he is working as ARS research scientist, and he had 13 years of experience on working on sheep at Central Sheep and Wool Research Station, Avikanagar, Rajasthan. Afterwards, now he has been transferred to National Dairy Research Institute, Karnal, and Dr. Gone is having a very great record of having published more than 70 research articles of means in national and international reputed journals. Also, he is a referee of so many journals, and he has won many awards also. So rather than taking more time, and I will request Dr. Gone to kindly deliver his lecture. So over to you, Dr. Gone.
Thank you, Dr. Kuldeep, for your nice words. So I'll start my topic straightly. So
You can share screen.
yeah. Thank you. So is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so today the topic that is given to me is breeding strategies and selection of better quality goats under changing climate. So now here, when we look at this topic, basically there are three different things. So we are interested in the breeding of the goats for profitability. At the same time, we want better quality goats so that we get more profit from the less number of animals. And also we need to look into the aspect of changing climate. Okay, so it's a complex of the things. I'll just try to amalgamate all the three aspects together. Okay, so please bear with me. So goat genetic resources are really important, especially in the arid and semi-arid and also hilly areas where there is scarcity of the water especially. So when we look at the goat is a multi-utility 5-star animal, because we know that from goat we can get chevron, we can get fiber, manure, skin and milk. But to be very true, any farmer, you pick up any farmer and you ask him, what do you get from the goat? So what answer that farmer will give to you? The answer is he or she will sell his animals to the butcher at the cost that is not profitable to him. So that why that is happening? Because still today, even after so many years of animal husbandry in India, we have not shifted our concern, our focus from animal husbandry to the livestock industry. So that gap has reduced the total income of the farmer from the goat industry. So now also we are not in the there is no change. So we are still in the husbandry aspect. We are not converted ourselves or transformed ourselves to the industrial scale. So that is the reason output from other factors such as fiber, manure, skin and milk is not obtained. Okay. Now, if you look at the trend of goat population in India, it has been increasing tremendously. So since 1951 to now, we can see that more than 100 million animals have been added to the total goat population, and now now we have nearly 150 million animals of goat, and they belong to nearly 34 different breeds. And if we look at countrywide distribution of these animals, then Rajasthan ranks first. However, the rank of the Maharashtra is nearly 6th. We constitute nearly 6.25% of the total goat population. But facts apart, we know that these days goat breeding is really a hot topic, and many people have shifted their focus especially in the animal husbandry from dairy sector to the goat sector, because they need less input, less resources, and more profit can be obtained. Now you look at this particular picture, trend of goat meat production, million tons. So goat meat production, million tons is hardly changing from several years. It's now nearly 7 million tons. And why is it so? It is so because this particular sector is not under the industrial scale. If you look at the if you look at the figures for poultry versus goat, then we can see when Government of India stringently acted for banning the beef export or beef consumption in India, or even the processes for making beef, at that time it was the poultry sector which took lead and made the gap that arose because of the lack of the beef in India. Goat and sheep sector could not do that, just because it is still in the hands of farmers. They are not able to organize it properly, and that is why we are still lacking behind, in spite of having 150 million animals on land. And goat is also a dual purpose animal. So many of the goat breeds in northern India, they are really very good milk producers, and we produce nearly 3% of the total milk in India, but as a whole, it's not a very big component. But as far as meat is concerned, yes, goat are really important because we produce nearly 14% of total meat in India. And you see here, this picture shows you clearly that 50% of the meat in India is produced by poultry. And it's really amazing. Buffalo produce for 20%, pig 5%, goat 14%, and sheep nearly 8%. So the lead that is taken by poultry is just because of the factor that it is industry today, and all other sectors are still in the husbandry form. So now with this particular background, we need to look at certain aspects. Two aspects are remaining. One is what kind of breeding we should formulate and practice in India right now, looking into the statistical aspects of goat population and its production. And the second aspect is, in the changing climate era, whether our breeding goals, our breeding structure can actually meet the demands that are arising in the market. So to go to that particular aspect, we need to understand three different definitions. One is the breeding goal. Breeding goal is defining what is the best animal in your flock. Then what is meant by breeding value? It identifies the best animal by recording. Okay, so whenever we are recording something on the animals like milk records or growth records, we need to identify what is the genetic value of that particular animal with the recorded data that you have generated, and how to use those best animals on the basis of their records. And we have defined the goal and we have selected the animals, then how to use that. So to use the best animal, we need to have a good breeding structure in existence. So we will look into these aspects in details. Now, because this whole topic revolves around the idea of climate change, so we must understand whether climate change exists or not. Now, you see, you can always hear a hot talk between two different groups of schools of thought that climate change is a reality, and some people say that it's just a havoc. So there are two different groups of people. But when we look at the data, being a scientist, when we look at the data, we need to believe the data. Okay, and we know that there has been continuous increase in the temperature, climatic temperature, and most of that owes to the huge emission of the greenhouse gases. Now, what are the greenhouse gases? Like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases, they constitute the main greenhouse gases. Again, livestock sector contributes for nearly 18% of the total greenhouse gases emissions. And the rate of climatic change in the current era is highest. If we compare the same to the previous 1,000 years, then the rate of change in the temperature, in the harshness of the climate is very, very high. And if that particular thing continues, then we'll be in the soup in coming few years. Now, what about India? What is the status of the India and greenhouse gases? Across the world, we contribute nearly 7% of the global emission. However, that 7% of the global emission is not only because of the agriculture. The first factor that contributes for the greenhouse gas emission is the energy, followed by the industrial sector, and then agriculture. And amongst the agriculture, cattle production is the highest source of emission, followed by the rice and buffalo. Then where does this goat stands? Goat doesn't contribute for much of the greenhouse gas emission. Why? Because still it is not in the industrial scale. It is not reared in the industrial scale. Still the goat breeding or goat rearing is not intensive. It's mostly extensive. And the kind of breeds we have, most of the indigenous breeds that we have, do not produce much of the greenhouse gases. Because you know, greenhouse gas production is a function of its genetics as well as its kind of nutrition that it is taking. So in the intensive system of management, you provide a lot of energy to the animal, dry matter to the animal, that leads to the higher production of the greenhouse gases. However, our goats are not still in that particular section. So what we need to focus in the goats then? Goats are important. Goats are really important for sustainability, livelihood sector of the rural, especially the rural people, where there is a lack of resources. In that case, what exactly we should focus on? So goats have very high capacity than other farm raised animals to effectively convert most of the feed resources into milk and meat. So being in Rajasthan for last 13 to 14 years, I know that nearly 4 to 5 months of year, we don't see anything on the land. Okay, so most of the land is barren, and only some shrubs and berries, that kind of shrubs you can find on the ground. But still, goats have capacity to identify the nutritional resources available in that particular region, and they can sustain on that. Not only they can sustain, they can produce milk, they can reproduce nicely even in that particular climate. Okay, goats emit less methane than other domestic ruminants. Now we know the reason for that. Then they constitute green agriculture production system. They are very important part of the green agriculture production system. And goat breeding plays an important role in mitigating and adapting the climate change in harsh environments. Why? Because they can adapt to the changing climate. Even if there are harsh changes, very sudden changes in the temperature, starting from 1 to 5 degree, and if it is going to 45 to even 46 degrees, still you will find that goats are one of the ruminant species which will not be much affected by it. Its production may go down, its reproduction may go down, but you will not find sudden mortality, because this kind of situations are already existing in the Rajasthan, especially in the western part of the country, even in the western Gujarat. These conditions are already existing, and goat resources are really successful. Now, we know that the total number of animals that we rear in any animal husbandry system, that actually constitutes the percentage of the total greenhouse gas emission. We have nearly 150 million goats, and that is why number of goats, because once it is big, it becomes a big issue, because whatever small quantity of greenhouse a particular animal is producing, if you have huge number of animals, the total volume of the greenhouses becomes more. So in that particular case, if we are really concerned about the changing climate and we want to increase the productivity of the animals, then the first and foremost thing is we need to use small number of goats. But those small number of goats should have very efficient conversion efficiency for food. Okay, so whatever it is eating, it must convert into the its products like meat and milk. And there should be a strategy for elevating the greenhouse gas emission by livestock. So that strategy we have to adopt. So if now you consider, now these particular aspects, these particular properties are only with our indigenous animals if you go on selecting them. But what if we incorporate the high producing breeds? If we incorporate high producing breeds in our production system, then it can become it can be a boon as well as a bane. So we need to have a good strategy to have a benefit for both the livestock industry as well as the climate. Okay, so that greenhouse gas emission is lower and the production from the goats is more. Now, if we talk about alleviating the stress of climate change, now we know that one part is animals are themselves becoming a source of increasing the greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, and the another thing is animals they themselves are affected by the increased temperature, increased harshness of the climate. So second part, if animals are themselves affected by increased stress of the climate, what we should do? Thing is, we can accommodate them for better housing, better management with ventilation and sprinkling. So this is the management aspect, and it is very costly. So if the animals are kept in house, which is not the case right now in India, most of the goat or even sheep, they are nomadic. Okay, so they go for grazing in the field, and at the night hours they come to the home. Okay, and then mostly it's an open paddock system where they are kept. Okay, so it's extensive type of system. But if you're going for intensive type of system, you need to provide huge inputs for the management, especially for the ventilation, sprinkling, in the case where huge stress of climate is seen. Now, another strategy is improvement in the genetic structure of the population. Now, this particular strategy, improvement in the genetic structure, it increases the productivity, and it also improves the adaptation to the climate change. And important thing is, once you make any change in this particular area, genetic aspect, it is it can never come back. It will never reverse us back. Okay, so investment in the genetic aspect of the productivity or climate resilient animal production systems is very, very important. Why? Because once you make any change in the genetic structure of the animals, that change is not going to come back. Okay, so you have already stepped 2 or 3 folds, then anyway your production level will not come down. Okay, so this will be a permanent solution to our problems. Now, again, intensive or extensive, our logic suggests that extensive system of management is really good, but is it profitable? No. Why? Because any extensive system of management lacks data recording. Any extensive system of management lacks the input cost, what a farmer is putting into it, and there is no economics concern. Okay, so in such a strategy, it's very, very difficult to convert the animal husbandry to the livestock industry scale. Okay, so now what if the system is intensive? If the system is intensive, we know that the methane emission is related to goat's dry matter consumption, and it is increased significantly in the intensive system of management. Okay, so higher amount of methane gas, that is a shift towards intensive system. So then what to do? Best thing is, we need to focus on our native breeds, and you can go for selecting these native breeds. What for we should select them? We should select them for certain aspects where there should be there should not be a negative impact on weight, on productivity. Okay, but there should be a positive impact on methane emission, lowering the methane emission. So there are certain advantages with regards to the use of indigenous goats for increasing the production aspect. Now you see, whenever we talk about goat and sheep production, or especially the goat production in arid and semi-arid regions, or even in the cold arid regions such as Ladakh, we find that people are wholly dependent for their livelihood of the goat resources. Why? Because goats can survive in the regions where there is lack of water. Okay, in the case of water scarcity, higher heat tolerance to dehydration is required, and that is available with the goats. That is the reason goats are preferred in the semi-arid and subtropical climates. In the drought conditions, whenever there are droughts, the rainfall is not continuously occurring for 3 to 4 years, or maybe more than that. So that times there are certain adaptations which must take place in animals for their survival and maintaining their production. So goats have these particular abilities. What is the ability? They have the ability to desiccate the feces. They can cut down the water excretion in the feces. Okay, so desiccation of the feces is very, very important thing for lessening the excess of water. Then they have the ability to concentrate the urine and thereby reduce the urine volume. So that is one important thing. They can reduce the urine volume. They can also reduce the evaporative water loss and utilization of the rumen as a water reservoir. So water economy, especially in the drought-prone region, focuses on utility of these kind of animals, sheep and goat, which have actually evolved themselves in such regions where deprivation of water is a permanent thing. So even in the change in the climate era, utility of these particular breeds will be very high, provided we should concentrate on increased productivity. At the same time, greenhouse gas emissions should also be lower. Now, what happens if extreme temperature changes take place? If extreme temperature changes takes place, then there will be shift in the environmental indicators. Okay, THI will be increased, temperature will be increased, humidity will be increased. and that will lead to a lot of stress on the animal. So if there are such kind of changes, we'll observe the decrease in the lactation period in the dairy goats. Most of the goat breeds in India are not dairy type, but there are few breeds which are really good dairy breeds. Even there are some crossbreeds like Alpine and Saanen crosses, and they are really good with beetle. So with increase in the THI, with increase in the dry heat, we see that there is significant decrease in the lactation period in dairy goats. Fertility of the animals also decreases. Estrus is not determined properly. If the estrus is not determined properly and your system is intensive, then you're not allowing male and female mixing. Okay, so in that case, if you're not able to identify estrus properly, you're going to invest or waste a lot of money on rearing the animals which are unproductive. Then it can aggravate the early embryonic fatalities. At the same time, growth and development of the animals, fetus, during its weaning phase, pre-weaning phase, is negatively affected because mother will not have higher milk production, so it cannot feed to its kids, and at the same time, fetus will not have a good environment to adjust itself. So it will have a lot of negative impact on growth and development. It will reduce the voluntary food intake, and feed efficiency will also be reduced. Okay, and it will therefore it will extend the fattening period also. So these are all the disadvantages which can happen in the extreme temperature. However, thing is, these things happen only if you have intensive system of management, especially in the dairy goat breeding system. Now, when we talk about indigenous goat breeding system, now also most of the indigenous goat breeding system is extensive or semi-intensive, and we don't face such kind of problems. Now, what about the potential for genetic improvement? We have huge potential for genetic improvement owing to the fact that we have nearly 34 goat breeds, 150 million population, and sincerely, very few efforts have been implemented by Government of India for genetic improvement of the goats. So most of the population in India is still it's not highly intensively selected, and if it is not intensively selected, we can expect presence of lot of genetic variation, and that lot of genetic variation will help us to improve the production efficiency of the animals. So local goats, they have capacity of maintaining their productivity in all circumstances. We have seen that. And the qualities of the local gene resources, there are really good qualities. One is the length of the life. Most of the local animals, they may not be a very good producers, but they have a very good length of life. They have really good health and productivity as compared to the other livestock species in and around them. And they have capacity to feed on the lignin-rich plants. Okay, so these are all advantages over the hybrid stocks. If you plan to incorporate some hybrid stocks or crossbred varieties, then our indigenous animals have these specific abilities to cope up with the change in the climate, and we can harvest these particular abilities for genetic improvement program. So what we need to do, we need to construct a selection index where weightage to the production as well as certain other factors which can account for the change in the climate should be taken together definitely with some weightage. So genetic selection with goats which are resistant to particular droughts and diseases along with the production criteria needs to be taken care of. So what traits we should take into consideration apart from the production? So production traits, yes, milk production or the weight at weaning or weight at 6 months, they are really important traits. However, apart from that, skin and hair type, sweat gland capacity, what is the reproduction rate of that particular breed or animals? What is the ability to maintain productivity in difficult conditions? Whether they can resist to the local diseases and parasitic infestation. Now, you see here, most of the animals who are born and brought up or evolved in a particular environment, they know how to cope up with the local vectors, local mosquitoes, which are already available in that particular region. So when they know the ecology of that particular system, they can better resist to the local diseases because they will not be much affected by vectors which carry the diseases, parasitic infestations, metabolic heat production. They are more tolerant to the hot droughts. So these are all the factors which we must take into consideration when we construct a selection index that takes into account production that is milk and growth. Apart from milk and growth, we should focus on this particular factor. Now, construction of a selection index is it's a big task basically. So huge efforts should be put into this particular aspect, and good research work of at least 5 to 6 years should continue in this particular aspect. Why? Because now at this particular moment, we do not understand biology of the animals in the changing climate. We have certain data, that is mostly the data comes from the Western countries. We do not have our own data. Okay, we do not have records, but the thing is, we have variation in the climate. So we can start recording our data. Okay, maybe the same animal in different environments, maybe progeny of the same sire in Rajasthan versus maybe a cold climate. Okay, and we can incorporate those indices into our mixed model equation for BLUP. So that will give us a good G by E chemistry, which can account for change in the rankings of the breeding values, which can account for genotype by environment interaction nicely. So good effort, especially from the research community, is essentially required. Now, fitness in given environment is really important, and that is what we have seen in the earlier slides. Disease resistance or resilience, shock absorbance, high production per animal, feed conversion ratio, and low methane emission. So these all constitutes components for the selection index if we really aim at increasing the production efficiency of the animals in the era of climate change. So suppose we do not do that, then what will happen? Now you see here, what you look at present on the screen is a reaction norm model. Reaction norm model, if we plan to define it, you see here there are T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, and T6. There are 6 different environments. These are time points. Maybe animal has started its maybe a pre-weaning phase at T1, and then it's going on, means animal is growing. Okay, but with the growth of the animal, environment is changing. Now, if you have ranked your animals at weaning, you can see that unit change in the trait on the left hand side. We can rank animals based on their merit. Okay, so whatever ranks we give to the animals in environment T1 doesn't remain constant when environment changes. So change in the ranking of the animals takes place because of genotype by environment interaction. This is called as the reaction norm model. So this reaction norm model will continue, and whatever best germplasm you select for today may not work good in the future. Okay, so this happens for cattle, for buffalo, for any livestock species. So that is one of the reasons why nicely selected or even progeny tested bull in one particular region may not produce a very high good quality progeny in the another region, which have entirely different environment. Okay, so animal which is selected in the Rajasthan or an animal which is selected in the Jammu Kashmir may not perform as good as it performed in the Rajasthan. Okay, because temperature will be changing, THI will be changing, so everything changes. So production performance also re-ranks. Okay, so this is a very big threat to animal husbandry, animal breeding industry, because whatever tools we have to rank our animals fails. So when our tool fails to identify the best animal, what are the factors which actually accounts for that failure? Those factors are the change in the environment. So to account for change in the environment, we should account for all those factors in the animal itself, which can resist the change in the environment. So we have discussed those factors, and once we make a better genetic merit index based on selection index criteria, we can select better animals. Now, in the selective breeding, if we plan to go for selective breeding, we need to give preference to the indigenous breeds that are well adapted for survival under the harsh climate seasons. And apart from the earlier traits that we discussed, there are certain other things. See, for example, when we talk about climate change, we do not know what will happen. It is possible that even whatever animals are staying in a particular village, they all will have to migrate to entirely another area, because that village will no longer be cooperating them, because there'll not be any water. Okay, so if no vegetation is there, no water is there, then complete permanent migration may also take place. If sudden increase in the temperature takes place, then again adaptation of the animals in the same area will be difficult. So we need to focus on certain other traits like large skin area to live weight ratio. Okay, so an animal may look big, but its live weight may be small, like a Sirohi goat. Sirohi goat is a very good example where you see animal may look very big, it looks like a deer, but its weight is not that high. Okay, so large skin area to live weight ratio is really good. It is good for heat dissipation. Shielded eyes, pigmented skin and eyelids, light colored or white body cover is really important. Ability to walk long distances. Why? Because if permanent migration takes place, you do not know how long you need to carry on your migration. Okay, so long and slender legs is very important criteria, especially for the animals which are reared in the drought conditions, in the desert conditions. Adjusting to the low water intake, high intake of salts in drinking water as well as in the forages, adjusting to the poor quality of food, and resisting ticks and other pests. So now with all these things keeping in mind, question comes, can I make profit? Still, can I make profit? Right now, we don't give much importance to the climate change. So if you do not give much importance to the climate change, yes, you can make profit. But in future, I do not know. So now, now we forget about the climate change and we focus on, can we make profit? Yes, you can make profit. But how? I can make profit in goat rearing by sale of kids, by sale of old and surplus animals, by sale of milk, and by sale of manures, by sale of products like milk, meat, manure, skin, bone meal, etc., blood meal, etc. But do we do that? No, we do not do that, because still goat husbandry is husbandry, it's not industry. Now, if I want profit, how can I do that? If I have 50 animals, what I do with my 50 animals, what I do is I sell my animals and I incur loss. That happens because we never involve any economics in our goat husbandry. Okay, so we need to count our strength first, what I should do in my goat farm. Okay, so first and foremost thing is, we must understand what I need to produce. And if I produce that, do I have a market to sell that? And if I have a market to sell that, can I get a proper price for the product? Say, for example, goat. Now, you may produce milk, but can you sell the milk of goat continuously? It is really difficult to sell goat milk. And if you go to the dairy, owing to the low fat content, it will not get better value. It gets very high value only if there is some viral diseases, because the aesthetic value of the milk is high. Okay, so it has a market in the baby milk powder replacers. So we need to find the market where that particular product has value. Now, how to target market? These days, it is very, very easy. Okay, now if you talk about 5 to 6 years before, or even 10 years before, it was really difficult. Now with the advent of the IT technology revolution, we can easily target the market. But the one important thing for targeting market, even in the previous or current era, is you need to have a group of people coming together. Unless and until you do not have a group of people coming together, you cannot sell your product. You need to have a cooperative approach where you all can earn together. You can have your microfinances. What for? Because if out of 10, one is having some emergency, medical emergency, or any kind of emergency, you all can contribute a little. Okay, and you can keep that group intact. If it is a microfinance, if a person needs 10,000 rupees, he can give a goat, an adult goat, to that particular cooperative at the cost of 10,000 rupees. Okay, because there are small needs, and for the small needs, if a person is alone, he will be in a soup. He will be a disaster. It will be disaster for him. Okay, but in a cooperative approach, all can earn together and all can progress together. So more profits can be obtained if you have cooperative, because you can convince the local leaders, you can approach the local market with more strengths. But for all this, you need better animals. Okay. Now, how to identify the better animals? Can you identify animals and select them? So we know that best parents produce best progeny. Okay. Now, when best parents produce best progeny, we must identify the best animals first. So for identification of the best animals, even if I'm recording data, can I believe my own data? Now you see here in this picture, you see the two kids are suckling milk of a goat. Okay. Now imagine that these two kids are born to a mother who is having very high milk production, but another set of kids are born to a mother who doesn't have very good milk production. Then what will happen? Obviously, kids having high producing mother will also have higher growth rate. If that happens, can you believe your own data? It's very, very difficult. There is masking effect of mother's milk on the kids' growth performance. If that happens, you need to first of all remove the masking effect. Why it is required? Because you need to select best animals on their own genetics, not on the basis of environmental effects. This is an example. This is a very common example I always give. Looking at the orange, can we identify whether it is sweet or not? It's very difficult. Consider this as a phenotype, a trait. Okay. So if I want to know taste of this orange, I need to peel it out. If I'm peeling it out, then only I will understand that, okay, whatever orange is there that is inside, unless and until I do not taste it, I will not know whether it is sweet or sour. Okay. So this is a simile. Okay. Don't take it as literal. Okay. So this is a simile. So the peels of orange is environment, maybe masking effect, maybe good farmer, maybe ample amount of water, maybe good nutrition. Okay. Maybe good climate, always 25 degrees centigrade outside, like Bangalore. Okay. And bad E, maybe like Rajasthan, sometimes 40 degrees, sometimes 5 degrees. Maybe a poor farmer not having enough resources, maybe diseases. So this is bad E. So on the basis of bad E, I cannot judge G. Okay. So to know that, there are several tools which can be used, like best linear unbiased estimates. Okay. To identify the fixed factors which actually affect your trait of interest. Best linear unbiased prediction, to predict the best breeding value of the animal by identifying all the non-genetic factors and then identifying the best genetics. So there are certain tools. Now that is a very, very technical issue that we'll not discuss here, but that is possible. Why it is important? It is important because milk is not only milk, or growth is not only growth. Milk is genetic makeup of the animal, plus whatever food you are feeding to that animal, water that you are giving to the animal, kind of housing you are giving to the animal, the temperature humidity index, body condition score, cleanliness, everything that you are giving to that animal constitutes the milk. Now, that means what? Milk is equal to genetic makeup plus environment. Now, unless and until we will not account for the environment, we cannot actually know the genetic worth of the animal. Okay. So environment, yes, it can change soon. We can make some changes to it. Okay. If there is harsh environment, we can soften it. However, genetic makeup, it is very, very difficult to change. But once it is changed, the change is permanent. And if the change is permanent, you can expect profits. And that is really important in the animal, in the livestock industry. So now you see here, if you need profit, you need to select best animals. Okay. For more production and high quality. However, if you need profit, you need to convert, or you need to migrate from animal husbandry to the industry scale. So once you go from husbandry to industry, you need to incorporate the aspect of market, cooperatives, demand and supply chain, and value addition. Unless and until you will not do that, it is very difficult to have profits. You see, a farmer from New Zealand and Australia who has only sheep, whose whole life depends, his whole family depends on income from the sheep, can afford world tour once in a year. But a farmer in India, even if he is having 100 sheep I have seen many farmers in Rajasthan who have 100 sheep or 50 goats. They cannot afford a small tour of 2 or 3 villages in a year. Why? Because we are still stuck up in the husbandry aspect. We have not transformed ourselves to the industry. So that is the difference. So if we do that, the same resources can give us a lot of profit. So now, okay, I have recorded that data. I have identified the 6 factors. I know now what is the genetics. Then how to increase the production? So this is the breeder's equation. This is what actually works in the animal genetics and breeding. Breeder's equation is R equal to I sigma P into heritability. It looks a little bit difficult, but it's very simple. Response, R is response. So if I select best animals, how much response I should get? If I select best parents, whether they will be really able to increase my milk yield? Yes, but when? Only when their daughters produce milk. It takes time. So it takes time, and that is generation interval. If generation interval is high, your response will be slow. Okay? Most of us do not understand this fact. We want quick results, which is not possible in animal breeding. Another thing is intensity of selection. How much of the animals you have selected from the population? In any nucleus flock, we do not have more than 100 animals. Okay? Sires, maybe we have 20 to 30, and then we need 10. Okay? So that is a very pathetic situation. Intensity of selection should be very, very high. See, for example, engineers who are going to the IITs are very intelligent. Why? Because their intensity of selection was high. Okay, so that kind of intensity of selection we need. We need 1,000 animals and select only 10 top 10. Okay, then only we'll have very high intensity of selection. We'll have a good phenotypic standard deviation. Okay, superiority of the parents will be very high if our intensity is good. If the heritability, okay, heritability is not in your hand, but at least these 2 factors are. So if we plan animal breeding in such aspect, then only we can get better response. But it is difficult because no breeding program can be followed in the field, because no farmer will allow you to make any changes unless and until he is benefited. So for a breeder, for a veterinarian, or for the person who is actually executing this particular policy, we must understand what is our breeding goal. What is the target? If I want to increase the milk yield, if I want to increase the production status growth, then from where to where? If I want to go from 15 kg at 6 months to 25 kg, okay, then how? Okay, what is the route you are following? Okay, so whatever route you follow, you must emphasize on the optimization, maximization of the profit and minimization of the cost. Okay, we need to objectively define our breeding objectives. Okay, so how much I am going to produce, how much increase I am going to get, and how much profit in terms of money it is going to give. Okay, and where do we get the genetic improvement? That genetic improvement can only be obtained in the nucleus. Again, I repeat that genetic improvement is not a subject of field. So we do this mistake a number of times. We implement breeding policies in the field, which is really difficult. Okay, the concept is you should have a systematic flock, a nucleus flock, maybe with a university, maybe with a research station. In that particular nucleus, you should have pedigree and dairy data recording system. You should have production, climate, and management recorded. Okay, and then you should select your animals, because you can maintain the intensity of selection. You can maintain the significant superiority of the parent in that particular nucleus. Okay, once your nucleus is good, okay, you can connect that nucleus to the field flocks. Okay, you can supply your rams, you can supply your bucks, you can supply your bulls to the field flocks. So automatically field flocks will go on developing its pedigree, because already one link pair provided. Okay, data recording is essential, definitely, and we can have exchange of males between the multiplier, commercial flocks, and the nucleus flocks. So it will have a two-way information sources. Now, how to identify the best animals? Again, we know, especially in the goat, it is not that tough. Okay, but yes, if you are going for milk production, then it is tough. So you need to believe on the pedigree of the animals. you need to have the SIP selection data, and you also need to have some progeny records so that progeny testing can be done. Now, not only this, in a good nucleus, you should maintain a replacement rate of 30%. You should never keep too old animals in your flock, and you should include all the traits of concern in the selection index. So now the selection index should have growth as well as all other traits of climate change criteria if we are interested. Okay, so what is the future then? The future is we need good genetic gain. However, for getting good genetic gain, we need to breed efficient goats for their genetics of productivity, so that we can cull more number of animals, keep only few animals who are better producers. At the same time, they should not increase the methane production. Okay, we can incorporate genomic selection. We can incorporate some markers for lower methane production. Okay, so there are several tools these days which are available and which can be actually implemented. However, question comes only for the small dominants because cost of the animals is low as compared to the technology that is applied. Okay, so people need to come together. Now you see why this particular poultry sector has increased, because industry has taken over. Why milk sector is proliferating? Because cooperatives are existing. Okay, none of these things are available for small ruminants. So in spite of having huge potential for profitability, still small ruminant rearers are not having much profit. So in the future, we need to have carbon efficient goat production system, and which should be genetically improved, improved for carbon saving, for high production, for better feed conversion, for survival, as well as for reproduction efficiency. Apart from that, there are certain external efforts such as precision feeding to reduce the surplus protein in feed rations, precision fertilizer management to reduce the nitrogen surplus, better land use management to ensure better crop yields. So these are all the solutions apart from the genetic improvement which can be implemented in the goat production system. So with this, I stop here. I understand because we try to amalgamate 3 different topics together. So I tried to make it a little bit faster. So thank you very much. If you have any query, you can please ask. So Dr. Panchabhai, it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for such a nice lecture. It was a really elaborative and thought-provoking lecture. And really, it would be very beneficial to all our participants. And to understand the genetics is really difficult. And you made it very simple, and you have simplified it in such a way that everybody could understand and apply it on the ground level. So thank you very much, sir, for your precious time. As you were so busy, we were discussing. Still, you have spare time for this lecture, and I'm sure that all of our participants would have got benefited by your lecture, and we'll see some questions. Shinde sir? I could not see chat box here. Chat box मध्ये question दिसत नाही आहे.
नाही, chat box मध्ये question नाही आहे.
Question नाही आहे.
Okay, no problem. Even if you have questions afterwards, you can email me or something like that. We can.
Okay. Yeah. So if somebody wants to ask direct question to sir, I request you all that if you are interested, you can directly unmute yourself and you can ask question.
Just raise your hand, we can unmute you. Yes, there is Dr. Shantanu Sidde wanted to ask question. Yes, Shantanu.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, as we have seen in large ruminants, mostly genetic improvement was achieved through artificial insemination. So in case of small ruminants, would that be possible in future, or would it be much more scientific and economical to maintain a higher genetic sire at farm level? And sir, would small or marginal farmers be having access to genetic information and better jump luck?
Yeah, thank you, Shantanu. It's a good question. Now you understand first thing. The thing is, genetic improvement is not achieved because of a technology. Okay, so artificial insemination is a tool. Okay, embryo transfer is a tool. But what is being inseminated, what is being transferred is genetics. So first of all, you need to select best animals. Okay, you select best animals and then you use the artificial insemination. Okay, so artificial insemination definitely exaggerated. It has exponentially help for spread of the good quality semen to the large ruminants. Now in large ruminants, it was very much essential. Why? Because it takes huge resources and time to produce a progeny tested bull. It takes nearly 10 years. Okay. However, when it takes 10 years and there is only one bull, you cannot afford to give that bull to all the respondents. Okay. However, in small ruminants, till now, we do not have a foolproof technology for freezing of the semen. That is a lacuna we have. Okay. So we cannot completely rely on the artificial insemination. Yes, these days people are what they are doing, that they have modified the technology and they are inseminating goats with the chilled liquid semen, and liquid chilled semen after they extract from the male can be used up to 24 hours. So within 24 hours, you can reach any corner of the India. But however, in goats and sheep especially, because your nucleus can produce more number of males as compared to large ruminants, okay, so it is always better to give that male. Okay, there are two reasons for that. One is, now also we do not have a foolproof technology for freezing the semen so that it will have a good viability post thawing. And another is, it takes little time and effort to produce good quality male, okay, as compared to the large ruminants. So I hope this satisfies.
Sir, Badri Narayan Chand, sir wants to ask you that what is green node production?
Yeah, see, so the green node production. So it defines, it's a very big topic basically. So whenever you are producing something, what is the level of the greenhouse gases that you are actually emitting? So it completely relies on low greenhouse gas emission, okay, with whatever efforts you are doing, maybe genetic or maybe external. Okay, so it all depends, it all deals with the lower emission of the greenhouse gas. That's it.
And he also wants to know that what is the role of breeding in green wood production?
Yeah, breeding has a big role. That's what we try to discuss. Breeding has a huge role, because if we are able to select animals which can produce high as well as they can emit low greenhouse gases, okay, then they will have a significant role. Okay, till now we have not done that. We have been emphasizing all our efforts towards high production. Okay, so in intensive system, when you are putting all your efforts for high production, definitely you are going to increase the greenhouse gases emission. Okay, so we need to integrate these two things. We need to come to an optimization strategy. That is important. Sominder Singh,
Good afternoon. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My question is regarding anti-methanogenic feed additives. Just like NAIP has developed one feed additive, just like Haridhara, you must be knowing that. Can we use some common anti-methanogenic feed additive in the goat feedings or something like that?
I do not know much about this aspect, nutritional aspect.
Okay.
Only input what I can give is, because most of our goats or sheep, they are still in the extensive system of management.
Yes.
Okay. So that is one limitation where this kind of feed additives may be a limiting factor to feed them. But I do not have much idea. I'm sorry, I cannot comment on this.
No issues.
Sominder sir, tomorrow
Yes.
there will be a lecture by Dr. U. Krishnamurthy sir, and I think he would answer your question pertinently.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
many are saying, sir, thank you very much. And
Thank
some,
you.
there is one question from Mr. Vikas Chauhan. He wants to ask that what would be the best ratio of male to female ratio for Barbary breed?
Yeah, see, for any flock, if you are maintaining a flock, okay, the best ratio is 1:30. Okay, but now it depends whether what kind of mating system you are going to follow. So 1:30 is a very good ratio if you are practicing seasonal breeding. Okay, maybe twice or thrice breeding in a year. Okay, so that you can bring 1/3 of the goats every time in cycle. However, many farmers do not prefer that. Okay, many farmers do not prefer that. They always prefer that all breeding should go on continuously throughout the year. So in that case, 1:15 or 1:20 is the optimum ratio. So for 30 females, you can keep 2 males always in the flock, because there is capacity of any male to serve females. So in a particular systematic flock, if you are managing seasonal breeding, definitely 1:30. For round the year breeding, 1:15 to 1:20 is the optimum ratio.
Sir, Vaibhav Raut from Maharashtra wanted to ask you that which breed is the best breed for milk yield in Maharashtra?
Yeah, that is a question many people ask. But again, I'm telling you now, don't emphasize only for any particular single trait. Okay, only for the reason of milk, many farmers have imported Jamnapari and Barbary, as well as Sirohi from Rajasthan to Maharashtra. Sirohi could sustain itself. Barbary, it's really good breed, good niche breed, but it could not sustain because Barbary comes from the Uttar Pradesh, where you have lush green pasture. Okay, so now it depends. If you are from Vidarbha, I will not suggest you. Okay, if you are from Vidarbha or even Marathwada, don't go for Barbary. Go for Sirohi. If you are from Western Maharashtra, definitely you can go for Jamnapari. You can go for Barbary. So you need to see first of all from where the genetic resources is coming. Otherwise, there will be genotype by environment interaction, and whatever you have imagined, you will not get. Okay, so that's what whole focus is. Environment plays very important role. So if you want to import any germplasm, anyway, all information is available on the literature, is available these days. But look at the temperature where that particular animal is reared. Then you bring to the similar kind of environment, or you provide micro environment. Okay, you provide ventilators, you provide sprinklers, then only you can expect. So Barbary, Jamnapari, Sirohi, they are good breeds, but condition is from where you are and from where you want to purchase. You should look into that.
Sir, Dr. Durkesh Goler wanted to ask one interesting question, that is whether small ruminants are seasonal in nature or for breeding, or what?
Yeah. See, we conducted a huge experiment on nearly 6,000 animals. So just to prove this, so our hypothesis was animals are seasonal. Okay, so we conducted this study on 6,000 animals for 5 years in a flock. I have that paper, I can share with you. It's in the Journal of Animal Breeding and Genetics. So the thing is, seasonality of small ruminants is a fact, but it is a fact for people in the those particular region where sunlight is not so good. Okay, maybe in the Europe, maybe in the Norway, okay, maybe in the Americas. For India, we could not observe that. We could not observe that. But still, you can find some seasonal patterns. Okay, here we could not observe seasonality. Okay, maybe the reason that we found is maybe we have huge sunlight always. Okay, and that somehow interferes. But the other thing, still we find some seasonality, and that seasonality is due to rainfall pattern. Okay, the rainfall pattern makes means it is directly associated with the nutritional resources available on the land. Okay, so farmer plans breeding of the animals accordingly. So that is why we find seasonality in lambing, in reproduction, but our study didn't find any association of this seasonality with actual biology of the animal. Okay, but things may change. You see, this topic is still of a research topic, especially in India, because seasonality of these animals is a concept that is taken from the Europe. Okay, so we have not yet proved it here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Due to time constraint, we cannot take all the questions right now, but we'll email you our participants' question and we would request you to answer them.
Sure.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time and experiences with us. And definitely, surely, I'm sure that we all will be getting benefited by your views and
Thank you, Dr.
experience.
Desh.
Thank you, sir. So now.